drivers in the Kart FedEx Championship, and you'll find a look that says we may have a chance after all. Cristiano da Matta is still well out front of the points, but lately he's shown he's vulnerable. The most recent signal came 2 weeks ago in Vancouver, a race that gave new inspiration to the hopes of da Matta's rivals. Once again, turn one was an adventure, an unhappy one for Jimmy Vasser and Kenny Breck. Potential winners departed. Da Matta was once again in a league of his own, while Michael Andretti's 300th race was one to forget. Da Matta pitted with the race in his hands, giving Canadian Paul Tracy a shot at the win. When Da Matta returned, the race slipped from his grasp, victim of a broken drive shaft. Dario Franchitti seized the lead in the closing laps to the delight of his family and the relief of his team. The race's final moments were shaken by a frightening wreck that left Adrian Fernandez with a fractured hip. Those drivers were shaken, but Dario and Team Green were cool. And on a day filled with dramatic twists and turns, this day will go to Dario Franchitti.
Yeah, to do it here is very special. You know, 2 years ago I thought I had it, but to do it today, that means a hell of a lot.
I knew that we needed the points. There's a lot of guys out of the race, so we needed to get the points and move up in the championship.
I'll tell you one thing, these three guys are going to have a big party tonight.
Now it's on to Mid-Ohio. The longest-serving road course in the Kart FedEx Championship Series is the site of Round 11 for 2002. But before you can race the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio, you must qualify. Welcome to a sunny, breezy Friday and the first round of qualifying for the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, and a beautiful day here at Mid-Ohio and a good crowd gathering for a Friday. Let's get right to Derek Daly.
Thank you, Bob. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Midwest, to a track that was built in 1962. The first kart event came here in 1980, and then the track was purchased by Jim Truman, who did lots of modifications. But one thing Jim did, he retained the charm, because this track still has that old-fashioned feel. In fact, the buildings that you look around here still have that period style and look to them. And what comes here to Mid-Ohio this weekend, of course, is an exciting championship because of what happened in Vancouver 2 weeks ago. The once dominant Cristiano da Matta faltered again, and when Dario Franchitti went on to win, he closed the gap to within striking distance and opened up this championship. In fact, the results at Vancouver had a great impact on this championship. And with more on that story, let's go down to Calvin Fish. Calvin?
Absolutely, Double D. Whilst Dario made hay and scored big points and closed that gap towards Cristiano da Matta, one of the other title contenders, Bruno Junqueira, certainly did not. He got involved in a late race incident and walked away from that with a 9th place finish and only 4 points. Now, more importantly, we didn't understand it at the time, but Adrian Fernandez suffered some major injuries in that crash. He's unable to make the start here in Mid-Ohio. He's on a week-to-week basis. His place in the team has been made by Max Papis, certainly a crowd favorite. He's going to be here this weekend driving the Tecate Lola, and he's hoping to actually get another podium finish. Remember, he's had 2 this year with the very tiny but underfunded Sigma Autosport team. But TK, driver moves and speculation is very much the talk of the paddock this weekend.
You don't call it the silly season for nothing, because some of the sillier rumors are the ones that seem to come true. At Vancouver, I talked about how Paul Tracy was on everybody's list at the very top. And now if you believe the pit lane buzz, those 6-inch stilettos, the proverbial stilettos that Paul Tracy strapped on Friday night, worked players into a lather, and they got down on bended knee and made him an offer he couldn't refuse. He supposedly signed a contract with them on Saturday night. Whether that's true or not doesn't really matter. The other dominoes are starting to fall. And is it Dario going to Newman Haas? If so, is he replacing Cristiano, who's going to F1, or is he replacing Christian Fittipaldi? One guy who didn't want to stick around to find out is Christian Fittipaldi. More on his plans later in the show.
All right, thank you, TK, and welcome, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. Scott Pruitt is not with us this weekend. Here at Speed Channel, we like our announcers to be current, so we sent Scott off to race a Winston Cup car this weekend at Watkins Glen, New York, where he was fastest in this morning's practice. Now let's get back to the champ cars. Cristiano da Matta's DNF, or did not finish in Vancouver 2 weeks ago, was his second of the season. He now leads Vancouver race winner Dario Franchitti by just 38 points, and what was a 50-point lead is now looking very slim indeed. Remember that The top man on the charts at the end of this opening round of qualifying for the Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio will pick up a bonus championship point and a guaranteed front row spot on the grid for Sunday's race. The big story coming in, that big wreck that brought out the red flag in Vancouver, in which Adrian Fernandez was trapped in his car for some 15 minutes. He wound up with a fractured hip and a bad bruise. But beginning of our story, we'll be back to talk with and about Adrian Fernandez when we return to Mid-Ohio. This Speed Channel presentation is brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. By Bridgestone Tires, advanced technology that gives you a grip on the future. And by Toyota, get the feeling. Welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. This weekend, it's the Mid-Ohio Champ Car Course at the CART Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. Tommy Kendall, let's take a look at this track.
Well, Mid-Ohio is one that the drivers rave about because it's a very traditional road course with ups and elevation changes, fast corners, slow corners in a natural terrain. The start is on the back straightaway, heading into the hardest braking zone, turn 4. That's where most of the passing will take place and heads into a long rhythm section, which winds. The cars are never straight until they get all the way back on the sweep heading to turn 10 and 11. You see the carousel and the keyhole, both a lot of time. Very important on how you put the power down in those two corners.
Let's take a look at the highlights of this morning's practice. First, Dario Franchitti got the right side wheels off and hit the tire wall hard.
The drivers are fighting understeer on the exit there, and they have a lot of understeer, and they don't want to lift out of the throttle. Sometimes at the last second they do, and it snaps into oversteer, and they shoot it back across the track to the left side like Dario did there.
The big surprise was when Franchitti climbed out of the car without his mandatory head and neck restraint device. More on that later. Alex Tagliani also had what you might call a bit of an off in turns 8 and 9.
This is heading back into turn 9, actually braking for turn 9. You come over turn 8, and the car is not straight. You need to slow the car down and sometimes go down a gear, and it also caught out Shinji Nakano as well.
It was a tough morning for rear wings. And then, as Tommy mentioned, Shinji Nakano, who's been racing very well of late, just got a little too much juice in the 8-9 complex.
It isn't often you hear tires squeal, but that's what happens when you have kind of a low grip surface. Even these wide slicks will squeal a little bit.
And that left Nakano with a long ride back to the pits to explain. Here's a look at the morning practice performances, topped by the Newman Haas teammates Cristiano da Matta and Christian Fittipaldi. No Tora Takagi up there. He's been practicing well of late, having a little trouble getting the results in the race. Paul Tracy, Tony Kanaan, Scott Dixon, and Michael Andretti in the 7th spot. Bruno Junqueira logs in at number 11. Plenty of drivers took out their backup cars, the ones noted with an X, including Christian Fittipaldi, who has made plenty of news this weekend, as TK mentioned earlier. And the final runners, Max Papis, standing in this weekend for Adrian Fernandez. But Dario Franchitti is the man coming in off of a big victory in Vancouver. He's standing by with Calvin Fish.
Well, Dario loves Mid-Ohio as the co-track record holder here. 2 poles, 98 and 99. But tell us about turn 1. A little bit of a love affair down there last year towards the end of the race and this morning.
I wouldn't describe it as a love affair, Calvin. Yeah, I mean, I went off, made a stupid mistake in the restart last year. And again this morning, I hustled in there a little bit too quick, understeered up on the curb. The car bottomed out, turned sharp left, and in the wall she went. But surprisingly little damage. So we're going to be back out in the primary car for qualifying.
You're feeling okay? We did notice when you jump out of the car, and the fans would have noticed on the screen that you didn't have your hands device on. I know you've been working with CART and trying to get that to fit a little better for you.
Yeah, we're struggling with it sometimes to get it to fit right. You know, Dr. Olve and Dr. Trammell and I have been working really hard. They've been around at the shop. We've been experimenting with all sorts of different things. Basically, whenever I use it at the moment, my right side, my upper body is going numb, particularly my arm. And so it's creating all sorts of other safety issues in the car. So they're working really hard with me to try and resolve that. Obviously, I want to be using it because it is a lot safer, but we're just right now struggling with it.
4 races in a row. You had a weekend off last week, but I don't think the fans appreciate how much of a racing nut you are. You watch a lot of TV, you watch your brother Marino race, and last week you helped out one of your buddies over at Rockingham in England. Yeah,
I went down to Rockingham, had a real busman's holiday there. I had a really good time. You know, as soon as I knew he was racing, I was like, okay, I'm going down to watch. And I thought, well, maybe I should just stay at home. But I had a great time, and he did a really good job there. It's a pretty nerve-wracking job being a spotter. You don't want to make any mistakes.
All right, mate. Well, good to see you. Good to see you okay after the shunt this morning, and go get him this afternoon.
Thanks, Calvin. Cheers.
All right, thanks very much, Calvin. Dario Franchitti won 2 weeks ago in Vancouver, as I mentioned, and that race will be remembered for the massive accident that brought out a red flag with just a handful of laps to go, involving the driver of that car, Adrian Fernandez. Let's take you back. Patrick Carpentier spins, Alex Tagliani gets hit in the back by Fernandez in the spot shadow, and then Bruno Junqueira arrives.
Well, the guys in front had a little bit more notice than Adrian did. Both Jourdain got by, Tagliani got on the brakes. He was able to see a little further around the corner. Adrian could not and stacked into the back. Totally not his fault, but was a victim of that. Watch the left rear of Adrian's car. That's the first, knocks it off the ground there at the impact with Junqueira, and that's the first indication we had on maybe how serious that was. It was borderline tragic when you see what could have happened when we look at this car.
It took 15 minutes for the safety crew to get Fernandez out of the car with a fractured hip. Earlier this week, we spoke to him at Indy.
Tagliani was basically on his brake, locked up, and as I was coming out of the corner, I couldn't stop in time, so I locked up also, but hit him from behind. At the same time I hit him, my car veered to the right, and I was 90 degrees into the track. And as soon as I start veering to the right, like 90 degrees, that's when Bruno collected me. But when he hit me right on the right side, it was, I knew I was hurt. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what was happening, but I had a lot of pain on my lower back, and basically then the car came to stop, and I didn't know until I came to the shop the severe of the damage. My butt was here, so can you imagine? This is like 2-3 inches deep into my butt and very wide, and all that basically what it hit here was the nose of Bruno Junqueira's car. So that's really what made the damage. But as you can see, I had a huge bruise here. And that's part of the, basically, you see this is exactly, we cover the part of the center where, you know, the nose hit me. And I'm extremely swollen here. So it's, I have shown my butt to everybody now, so everybody knows it by now.
The nose of Tagliani's car pierced even the carbon seat. Now, some of the drivers do not run a carbon seat. They just have poured foam inside. So from this, Adrian has called for all drivers to use Kevlar seats and also maybe knock the sharp nose, at least from a structure, off these cars.
Quick fix, it was Bruno Junqueira's car, not Alex Tagliani's, but it was a very, very difficult moment, and obviously Adrian Fernandez is being a good sport about it. A very, very vicious bruise. We'll have more from Adrian and more talk about the incident tonight on Kart Friday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Derek Daly hosting as always. And then tune in live for second round qualifying from here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course at 1:30 p.m. live on Speed. And the Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio will air live in its entirety on CBS Sports at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. In a moment, we'll talk with the man who is driving for Adrian Fernandez this weekend. Mad Max Papis is back. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. Don't forget, this Saturday and Sunday, Speed News will have all the news of the world of motorsports. Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for 30 minutes. Sunday at 7 Eastern, 30 minutes of our special NASCAR edition, highlighting everything that happens this weekend at Watkins Glen. And then Speed News Sunday, the second half hour, beginning at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with news from the rest of the world of motorsports. Speed News Saturday and Sunday at 7 Eastern, only on Speed Channel. Now let's get down to the pit lane where Derek Daly is standing by with a man driving for the injured Adrian Fernandez this weekend, Mad Max Papis.
Thank you, Bob. Yes, Mad Max is the man entrusted with Adrian's car this weekend, and maybe even for a second race, because we don't know when Adrian will be back. Max, great to see you back, one of the most popular drivers. Somebody else's misfortune, obviously a good opportunity for you.
You know, first of all, let me tell you that I wish Adrian all the luck, and he's going to be back next week. You know, he picked me to be in his car, and it's a great pleasure. Be back at Mid-Ohio, the track that hosts my first ever race in Champ Car, 96. Great pleasure, and you know, I'm just gonna be out there, do my best, because we have a great crew, great people, and it's gonna be out there and do what we can.
So Max, here you are with a new team, a new car to you, and yet you sit on the pit wall. I mean, shouldn't you be out there on clear track, learning, tuning, testing?
You know, we've got only 15 laps to go, and we need to use those 15 laps at the best. You know, you're gonna see me going out there maybe a little bit earlier than most of the other guys. But again, you know, those 15 laps are pretty vital for the qualifying position, and we have a lot to learn, but we need to do it at the right moment. And maybe going out way too early is penalizing your lap time, and we don't want to do that.
Thank you, Max. Best of luck for the weekend. Now, people asked, perhaps, why would Luis Diaz, the young Mexican driver who's also sponsored by Telmex, not be in this car? Well, Adrian, of course, had a lot of deep soul searching as to who would he put into it. And in fairness, to put a young rookie into this car without any testing would be unfair to the driver. And really, Mad Max Papis was the only driver available with the type of experience you need to step into a car like this at such short notice. Diaz will get his chance in the future.
No question about it, Derek. And of course, Mad Max has a great record here. He finished 4th here at Mid-Ohio back in 2000. Now we want to take you back to Vancouver 2 weeks ago once again. It was not only notable for the incident, it was also an emotional victory for Dario Franchitti. And the reason is, it was the home race of one of kart's favorites. The Kart Grand Prix of Vancouver 2 weeks ago was a special one for the series veterans, being the home race of one of Canada's brightest racing stars, the late Greg Moore. Moore was a proven winner in the FedEx Championship for the Players Foresight team, a young member of the Mercedes racing family with an unlimited future. But more than that, Moore was a key member of the Brotherhood of Kart Drivers when he lost his life in a racing accident at California Speedway in 1999. Paul Tracy won in Vancouver in 2000 and dedicated the win to Moore. This year it was Dario Franchitti, perhaps the most emotional of the Scots' 8 career kart FedEx victories, followed home by Tracy and Tony Kanaan, all 3 close friends of Greg Moore. Podium ceremonies are a time for celebration, but in Vancouver there was also gratitude and remembrance, tears and smiles.
And hey, Greg, your 3 best friends are here today, man, so we're gonna go party tonight.
Tony said 1, 2, 3, and I've waited 2 years to say this, but this one's for you, Greg.
Welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Still no one on track in this first of 2 rounds of qualifying for the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. We're beginning the second half of the season. While we have a moment, it seems like a good time to fill out a report card on how everyone did in the first half. Tommy Kendall went out to get opinions.
Mid-season report card. It's halfway through the year. This is when teachers usually hand out their grades. How would you grade your guys' performance first?
Probably a C.
I give myself a C.
We're a B minus, maybe a B.
Well, obviously you have to give Da Matta an A+.
Obviously, if you're talking about Cristiano, I think you got to give those guys an A. They've done a superb job.
Cristiano has an A, for sure. He's been going to classes every day, you know, and never missed school. It's being the student that sits in the front all the time.
Everybody else, I would probably say, is a C to a D. Everybody else has been inconsistent, hit or miss. So,
how did I always say in my report card? Could do better. You know, has the potential, could do better.
Patrick got a B. He was in a C point, but now, you know, if the last race, I think he really drove well.
the team to beat right now is Newman Haas and Da Matta, and everybody else has to do their homework.
Who would the principal hold after class for misbehaving?
You.
Me? Nice guy.
Tagliani's been known to, I think he's a crazy loner guy that sits at the back of the class with a mad look in his eyes, you know.
In class, there's always one guy that gets away with everything and the teacher thinks it's an angel. Who's that in this series?
Paul Tracy, for sure.
Who's the teacher's pet in this series?
I think Paul, for sure.
Tony and Dario went on the record saying you were the new teacher's pet.
Yeah, well, maybe I am. It's nice to be on the other side of the coin.
You know, when you do something wrong in the past, but no matter who does it, the teacher is not looking behind you, and she turns around and she takes you out right away because she thinks it's you.
I was always a guy in school that got busted for everything, you know, for the elastic with the paper clip deal and all that business.
I think PTs is doing the stuff, and now 1,000 got to go home.
Thank you. Now, as you look at the card of Christian Fittipaldi's here, it brings up one of the very surprising stories in the last couple of days, Christian, that you will leave your single-seater career and basically pledge your future to NASCAR.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right.
Christian, it's a dramatic move. I mean, Formula One to IndyCar, or to kart and to Formula One is somewhat an established move, but you've really made quite a dramatic change. Why so?
Wow, it's I would say a combination of a bunch of different things, but really I had a great opportunity, and these opportunities sometimes they never come back to you. A race car driver only has a certain timing in his career, and I know a lot of excellent guys out there that missed out a little bit on this timing, and they never got it back to them. And definitely NASCAR was something that I've always thought of doing, but I thought I was going to do it a little bit later in my racing career, and I got an excellent opportunity right now, good timing, and I decided to take it. By no means it's going to be easy. Actually, it's going to be very, very difficult, very hard. It's very competitive there, a lot more competitive than what a bunch of people think it is, but we have some good amount of time to really prepare ourselves, and I don't want to lose the focus over here, because although I'm only going to race another 3 more months over here, we still have 9 more races to go, and 9 races here is half of the championship.
Christian, we wish you the best of luck. Of course, you now know that some of the biggest names in the world of motorsports, Fittipaldi, is joining with the biggest name in NASCAR, Petty. That will fuel huge interest from many, many quarters for years to come to see how Christian gets on. Calvin?
Well, Derek, the driver they love to call shorty is Cristiano da Matta. He'll say that his buddy Tony Kanaan is actually shorter than he is. But we just spoke to Christian about his move for next year, and there's a lot of speculation, Cristiano, about where you'll be next year. I understand you're still in the middle of a contract with Carl, but the Toyota F1 test and the success you've had this year certainly needs these stories to happen.
Well, certainly I see a lot more rumors and things written on the internet and on TV and everything than more than actually know. So I think a lot of it is actual rumors. Of course, there is a small possibility. I tested the car there at the middle of the year, but I consider the possibility very small, and it's just I don't know why people just like to talk. Every time there's something different to talk about, people just like to talk.
You still have a big points lead, but coming off 2 DNFs, and now you come to a racetrack where Toyota really hasn't performed very well. It hasn't been in the top 5, which is unbelievable in all the visits to Mid-Ohio. But this morning you were fastest. Does the car feel pretty good?
Yeah, car felt good right away. We had a very good test here about a month ago that really helped us. So we unloaded the car, and the car was good right away. It was actually good because we had a small problem in one of the cars this morning, and that made us able not to lose as much time as we normally would if we haven't tested here before.
Okay, Cristiano, good luck this afternoon. And he's been the man. 5 straight road course poles for Cristiano da Matta, Bob.
He is definitely the man. Now, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we would want you to know that we're going from one great road course to another here in the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Next weekend, the Grand Prix of Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Friday qualifying, August 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Kart Friday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern that night. Saturday qualifying live at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, all on speed. And then on Sunday, the Toyota Atlantic Championship, round 10 of 12 for Kart's Premier Driver Development Series. You'll see that live here on Speed Channel, followed by our pre-race coverage at 2:30 p.m. and the race itself at 3 Eastern for the Kart Grand Prix of Road America, round 12 of 19 this season. Still no one on track. 22 minutes have now elapsed. 38 minutes to go. You see the driver standing around. Michael Andretti looking at his watch. Time to get in the car, Michael. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where nary a car has yet ventured on track. The first round of qualifying for the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. I'm Bob Marshall, along with Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fisher in the pit lane, as Scott Pruitt has been given the weekend off to go show those Winston Cup drivers how to get around Watkins Glen International. There's Bruno Junqueira, who has yet to climb into his car. Let's get quickly to Derek Daly.
Now, because we have such a hectic summer schedule right in our midst at the moment, you'd think on a weekend off you might relax. Not this guy here. Canaan goes to Key Biscayne and does a triathlon. What are you thinking of?
Working out. I mean, trying to keep up with these guys. I mean, I love to triathlons, and the only weekend off, they had one on and right beside my house, so I went ahead and do it.
And tell me how you did.
Finished second, my best place finish this year so far. I finished third in Vancouver, second in the triathlon. Let's try to finish first here.
Okay, now, earlier this year, Da Matta moved into your house. Obviously rubbed off a lot of good luck. I believe Servian now camps. It's like a gypsy house down there.
They're making turns. I mean, I keep the enemies close. So Cristiano is going now because obviously he's making enough money to live on his own. Oreo is still trying to look for a job. He got a ride for 5 races, so he's staying in my house right now.
So Canaan takes care of it. But have a look at these two young ladies over here, because they look after Tony Canaan. The young lady on the right is his mom, Miriam, and Karen is on the left. And if you look closely, not too closely, you'll see www.tonycanaan.com.br. Of course, his own website address that Karen runs and operates for him. She's employed by her brother, Tony.
I can't quite read it, Derek. Could you get, well, I guess you can't get it. This is Mad Max Papis going out early, driving a Honda-powered race car for the first time since he tested a Formula One Lotus back in 1994. Let's ride along. This is turn 1.
Watch for the concrete patches that are in virtually every corner. Traditionally, they're a lot slicker. This year, the word is there's not a big difference from the asphalt to the concrete, but you'll still see every opportunity. They'll have the, oop, that was when the road falls away. A little bit of oversteer going down the hill, but at every opportunity, the drivers will try to hook the inside wheel inside of the concrete patch. And in years past, where there was very little grip, it was almost like hooking your tire into a groove. It was that dramatic a difference.
Papis 21st this morning with a lap at 70.085 seconds, 115.985 miles an hour in average speed. This is 8 and 9.
Ooh. Another place where there's an elevation change where they really have to chase the back end out.
Great corner here. Down into the carousel. Big curb on the right and on the left. Flag stand coming up. Max Papis has posted the first 2 laps of this qualifying session. His best, 73.897, 113.897 miles an hour. Excuse me, 110.002 miles per hour. Other drivers are getting ready. We'll take a quick break. This Speed Channel presentation is brought to you by Prudential Financial, growing and protecting your wealth. By BMW, the ultimate driving machine. And by the U.S. Army, an army of one. Welcome back to a beautiful day at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The Champ Cars are in town for the 21st time. Going all the way back to 1980. Bob Barsha, Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish with you. This is Max Papis, who has completed his 3rd lap and improved to 72.243 seconds, 112.5 miles an hour. There you see the suspensions that were so much a part of the action in Vancouver 2 weeks ago. Let's take a look at the trials and tribulations of the Ganassi team.
And this took place on Friday with Bruno Junqueira. Both upper wishbones, both sides failed, and you see the results are catastrophic.
Some 40 G's withstood by Bruno Junqueira running into a tire wall. Irregular speed gives you a much better idea of the force of that impact. Scott Dixon also had problems.
Key difference there is only one side failed. You saw the car take off left towards the wall. The other wheel he put to good use, was able to turn it just enough to avoid the big impact that Bruno had.
A great save by the young Kiwi, quickly becoming the star of Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Calvin Fish down in the pit lane has more on how these problems are detected and what they might do about them.
Well, what I'd like to point out first, Bob, before they put the steering wheel on Bruno Junqueira's car, is right here we have a track map. Now, remember in Laguna, Cristiano da Matta had that problem in qualifying all the racetrack down. Now we have what are called safe havens. Now, there's a number of them around Mid-Ohio, and all of those are indicated by these little red X's, so when the driver's out there and he has to pull off, he'll know where to pull off on the racetrack. Now we look at this top A-arm. This was the problem. This was collapsing on the Ganassi guys in Vancouver. What they've done is beefed this up. There's a lot thicker here on the front side than is on the back. Very hard to see from the camera standpoint, but when you actually put your fingers on it, you feel it's a lot beefier. Also, what they've got is a strain gauge here. They're not allowed to run it in qualifying per the kart regulations, but in this morning's practice, they've got this strain gauge here. Now, they don't think there's going to be a problem here at Mid-Ohio, but what they're trying to develop is a baseline for this, get some readings here at Mid-Ohio, then when they then run at maybe Montreal or maybe Australia, where they pound the curbs again, they can see what is normal and what is not.
And what a strain gauge does is it will actually measure the deflection of the metal on that upper A-arm.
You see Bruno Junqueira strapped into his office. A very minute space for these drivers to work their athletic miracles. Here's Mario Dominguez, who's currently shown P1. Very loose there, going with that brow at turn 9 on the backside of Mid-Ohio. He has lapped in 70.987. Quickest time this morning was Cristiano da Matta at 67.384 seconds. The lap record is shared by Dario Franchitti and Gilles de Ferran. Franchitti in 1999 went 65.347 seconds. De Ferran matched that in 2000. And there is Dario Franchitti. Had the spin in this morning's practice, backed it into the tire wall, tore the rear wing off. As you heard him say earlier, there was surprisingly little damage on the car, and that is the chassis he spun this morning.
You're starting to see the effect maybe from Vancouver, where they had so much trouble on Friday getting a clear lap. All the guys went out a little bit earlier and were even more evenly spaced on Saturday at Vancouver. And here there's an additional factor, namely this track traditionally will not pick up speed to quite the same extent as a street course will. And it's conceivable if it heats up tomorrow that the track will actually be slower tomorrow. So puts a little bit added pressure in trying to capitalize on today's session.
We saw Patrick Carpentier coming on track, winner at Cleveland this year. And he survived a wild spin that set off that big crash at Vancouver 2 weeks ago. More drivers getting ready to go. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. You're on board with Dario Franchitti, running the second of his 15 allowable timed laps in this first round of qualifying for the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. Mario Dominguez currently leads at 69.790 seconds. Franchitti goes to P2 at 70.190 seconds.
This is a great opportunity early in the session to ride with one of, perhaps maybe in this day and age, the master of Mid-Ohio. This track is very much finesse-based. Like you see the road falling away there when we were on board with Max. All the little elevation changes really add little subtleties to what you do with the line, feeding in the throttle, how you apply the brake. There's no real straightforward hard braking zones. So Dario's a good guy to watch for some of those little nuances.
As Mario Dominguez headed to the pit lane. We understand he will have a teammate next year. The Herdez team, the former Bettenhausen operation, will expand to 2 cars next year if all goes well. There's Dario Franchitti recovering. I've had a quick half spin there in turn 5. This is 8 and 9.
That was only his second. That was his third time lap, and it's going to be lap 3, lap 4, most likely. That is the hot lap for the tires. So he'll regroup, make sure he has a clear spot, and probably start another flyer right here.
Franchitti stays on track, trying to get that good lap. Here's another look.
Just going off the outside of 4. Just that happened. He overshot the braking and just ran out of room. Straight lines it over to the other side.
Right back on track. The Bridgestone Potenza tires on this and all the other cars in the race are the softest road course compound that Bridgestone makes for the Champ cars. It will also be used in 2 weeks when we go to the Gilles Villeneuve course in the St. Lawrence River in Montreal, Canada. You definitely will want to be with us for that race. Down a gear quickly.
Look how early he turned in there. That's an effort to try to make sure he gets the right wheel hooked on the inside of that little bit grippier pavement. That's something that Bobby Rahal was the first guy I can remember doing that, really turning in early there in turn 6.
Bobby Rahal was once the master of Mid-Ohio. It's all about getting optimum performance out of the tires. Derek Daly has more on the rubber.
Bob, there's an interesting contentious situation that we have documented now all season long, and it revolves around tires and the number of laps they run and the time that they don't use the racetrack. I asked Michael Andretti, if he had more tires, would you be out running now while everybody else sits around? He said no, because we still only have 15 laps. So unless they change the number of laps, we only need less than half an hour to run those 15 laps. And of course, 99% of the time you'll run it in the back half of a session. We've seen that all year long. However, this morning in the 1 hour practice session, believe it or not, the Newman Haas team ran more than half of the session bedding in their brakes, bedding in their brake discs, etc., on wet weather tires, because the tires were so precious they didn't want to do it. But Michael did tell me if they had more tires per weekend, he definitely would have run a lot more, particularly this morning.
Well, as we've mentioned before, the Bridgestone engineers are in an interesting position. Drivers want more grip. The series wants fewer marbles. And all the while, you have to have tires that will give optimum performance within a safe range. Dario Franchitti goes to P1 at 68.361. Patrick Carpentier on a hot lap behind him, but comes up just short at 68.586 seconds. There is Carpentier. Follow him with our sectional timings. First trap coming up. Second fastest to that point on the track to Franchitti, the provisional pole sitter. Currently stands third, Michel Jourdain Jr. fourth, and Shinji Nakano in fifth. Through the second trap, losing time, now just over a tenth, slower than Franchitti.
Some big understeer through the fast left-hander, turn 11 on Carpentier. You can see the wheels cranked all the way to the exit.
An improvement to 68.423 seconds, but he remains in second place with 17 minutes remaining in the session. He'll take a break as Carpentier continues on what looks like another hot lap. We'll let you know how he did when we return. Stay with us for more from Mid-Ohio. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. Coming up tonight from Watkins Glen, it's Trackside with all of the Speed Channel announcers along with Michael Waltrip. Stock car guys talking stock car racing from the Glen at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then happy hour coverage from Watkins Glen tomorrow live at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Check it out only on Speed Channel, your home for NASCAR. On board with Max Papis. There's Cristiano da Matta, who has yet to get on the board, so he's coming out. Well, he has completed one lap. A lot of rumors swirling about Cristiano da Matta and his future, reportedly high on the list for Toyota's Formula One program. While he makes his way around, Michael Andretti has gone to the top of the time charts, 68.333 seconds, 3/100ths quicker than Dario Franchitti. Calvin Fish has more on Dario.
Well, Dario right now, he just dropped a second behind his somewhat teammate Michael Andretti, but he and Patrick Carpentier are up in the top 5, running 8, and just an indication of how this racetrack changes in terms of grip. Both of those guys were tested here back in May and ran high 5s very comfortably, which is very close to the track record. So Mid-Ohio with its temperature change really is a fickle place. Very hard for these guys to get a grip on, and when they come here testing, if there's no one out there running with them, they really don't know how well they're going on a particular day. I asked Dario this morning, what's your minimum speed through turn 1? He said, I don't know what it is, but it's a lot slower than when I was here a couple of months ago.
Well, even as you were speaking, Calvin, Patrick Carpentier has now gone to the top of the charts with the lap that began just a moment ago. 67.714 seconds. And the order is constantly shuffling. Just as I was about to say, he was the first man into the 7s. There are 6 drivers in the 67-second zone. Andretti, Carpentier, Fittipaldi, Takagi, Breck, Kanaan, Junqueira. Now Tony Kanaan. Michel Jourdain Jr. is slow on the start-finish straightaway. Cristiano da Matta goes to the top. Here is Jimmy Vasser, who's had such an up-and-down season. Second place finish at Long Beach, the best he has shown thus far this year. He has been taken out at the first corner of the first lap at least twice, both times in a tangle with Kenny Brack. On board the shell car with Vasser. And a big spin on the front straightaway as Paul Tracy comes to a smoky stop, and we have a red flag. Bruno Junqueira went by Tracy at what appeared to be unabated speed. You see Jourdain Jr. in the white Gigante car to the right of your screen. He has been stopped there for at least a lap before Tracy arrived.
There's probably a connection between the two. Whatever stopped Jourdain could well have dumped fluid down on the straightaway there.
This just to the announcer's right, if you will, outside our announce booth window. I looked up a moment ago and saw the back of Paul Tracy's car as he went under the start-finish sideways. Red flag, all stop. Here's another look at Tracy. Ooh, he got the right side wheels off. Looks like he might have also gotten the left side ones off.
And that ride over the curb on the center of the tub is hard on the under tray. And again, you don't know if fluid put him out wide up on top of the curb. It's, I guess, it'd be speculation at this point.
Paul Tracy fully on his game. The winner at Milwaukee feels he should have won in Vancouver 2 weeks ago, but for some questionable pit strategy. Simple Green Kart safety team on the job as always. It looks like he has lost the fire. They'll get him turned around. See if they can bump start him. While we are down with a red flag, we'll take a quick break and be right back. Stand by for more from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We have a little under 12 minutes to go in the session. Welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We are under a red flag in this first of 2 qualifying sessions for the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. You see the cars in the pit lane awaiting word to go back on track. The clock is running. We are under 9 minutes to go in the session. Let's go to race control and join Gary Barnard, Senior Manager of Competition for Kart. Gary, Bob Varsha, and Tommy Kendall with you. What's our situation here? Michel Jourdain Jr. stopped first. Quite a time ahead of Paul Tracy's spin. Who gets hit with the red flag and loses their best lap?
They each will, Bob, because we were going to go down for the 9 car. However, we were going to wait a little while to allow people to finish their laps.
No, we're all right.
The spin of the 26 car made us go down a lot sooner, so both of them will receive the penalty.
Was there any consideration given to whether the first red caused the second? Do you have any reports of fluid on the track, or are they 2 separate incidents?
Separate deals, no fluid on the track.
All right, thanks very much. Gary Barnard, Senior Manager of Competition for Kart. In replay, there you see Michel Jourdain Jr., who parked, I would guess, about a minute and a half before Paul Tracy arrived on the scene.
Well, and you would say, well, why is Paul still trying? And they said that that's exactly why they were holding off. They deemed he was in a relatively safe spot. They wanted guys to do just that, finish their fast laps. He pushed out up over on the curb, high-centered the car. Same thing with Junqueira. He probably had to lift, so that probably took a little bit off Bruno's quick lap.
Current order is da Matta, Andretti, Carpentier, Fittipaldi, Takagi, Brack, Kanaan, Junqueira, Dixon, and Tagliani as we go green with about 7.5 minutes to go. let's go to Calvin Fish with more on Dario Franchitti.
Well, we're going to see a traffic jam out there obviously now, Bob, with everyone going on track. Just 7 minutes left, and that's what happens when these guys gamble. But I'm down in the Team Core green pit. Dario Franchitti was in. We talked about grip. He is definitely searching for a big spring change here on the blue car. They've sent him back out. Hopefully they'll keep the balance in the car and find that much needed grip around Mid-Ohio.
This is down the long backstretch. This is where the field will take the green flag in Sunday's race. All other flagging will be done from the finish line flag position.
It doesn't look like the number of laps will be a factor here, but actually Cristiano perhaps the most affected because he only had 3 laps in the books when he was out. When the red comes out, if you're on a lap and they have to stop it before you finish their lap, they give everybody, they don't count their in lap as a lap against the 15. Now, do you have some more on that down in Cristiano's pit?
Indeed, Tommy. Cristiano is still, despite the lack of number of laps, is very, very confident. He's 7/10 clear of the whole field right now. He came in, Kenny Seebeck told me, he said, we're in total control. We're making a shock absorber adjustment to go stiffer, and we're giving him more front wings. So the Lola here, a bit like Dario Franchitti, they seem to need more and more front grip from these cars. But Cristiano da Matta is very confident that he's going to go significantly faster.
Now, sharp-eyed viewers of that videotape we showed you a moment ago of the Jourdain incident, which got up Paul Tracy, noticed also that the red flag was waving when Bruno Junqueira came through. Junqueira will not get to keep that lap, but it will not count against his total. Here you see Junqueira in what could have been a very scary moment if Tracy hadn't been as far up the track as he was. There is the red flag waving. So he loses that lap, but as I mentioned, it does not count against his allowable 15 timed laps.
And Derek's comment about the front wing is exactly right. The guys like Cristiano, Dario, the guys that are really good at carrying that mid-corner entry speed, that's usually what they'll complain about. If you get the back end settled down so it'll stay under the guys going to the corner, as they go quicker and quicker, they'll usually complain about mid-corner understeer. So that sounds like the car's working obviously quite well. He's got 7/10 on the field, but he's probably told them, if you can make it a little better right in the center of the corner, I can go even quicker.
There you get a sense of the elevation changes of this racetrack. How careful it is to keep, how careful you have to be to keep the car balanced in these constantly changing attitudes.
And you see him slowing down. This is where sometimes that accordion effect, one guy slowing down for another guy ends up, the guy behind him catches him. In this case, Paul Tracy, he'll slow down. And so if some of the guys are on a fast lap, that's where the problems in other people ruining their lap comes in.
There's Michael Andretti, the only active driver, or the only active driver in this race who has won here at Mid-Ohio before. The other active driver who has won is Adrian Fernandez, who will not be driving this weekend as he recovers from his Vancouver accident. Calvin Fish has more on Michael.
Well, I think it's really an indication of how much progress this team have made with the lower. I just spoke to Tony Cotman. He said no changes whatsoever after the first set of tires. Just put new tires on and sent Michael back out. They were really chasing their tail early in the season, but seem very balanced now with the Lola here at Mid-Ohio. And this is really pole or nothing. Everyone believes the track will change overnight and get much faster. So if you get the pole today, you're locked into the front row, and that's what everyone is gunning for.
All right, thanks, Calvin. Michael Andretti, also a former pole sitter here at Mid-Ohio. Qualifying hasn't gone well for him of late, but he's doing well here. Currently third, 67.714. As Tommy mentioned, da Matta appears to have everybody covered once again.
Not only a former pole sitter, Michael used to own this track in qualifying. I think he's been on the pole here 4 times when he was driving for Newman Haas.
And here we are with a little over 3 minutes to go in the session, and once again, lots of traffic. Everyone has waited for the end. Qualifying is important here at Mid-Ohio. The worst starting position for a winner in the 20 or so previous runnings of this race is 8th. Alonso Jr. came from 8th in 1995 to win. Juan Montoya did it in 1999.
We saw someone spin off there in the keyhole.
Tony Kanaan. Going to have 4 very messy Bridgestones. Someone's off on the left as well.
Takagi, I believe.
For Takagi? Yes, it is.
Looks like he stalled. I thought I saw him motioning for a push.
Eight times Mid-Ohio has been won from pole position, but it's been a while since someone did it. Alex Zanardi, the last to do it, or the most recent, back in 1996. Here's another look at Kanaan going off. No sign of Takagi yet. I wonder if there might be fluid down out there in the keyhole. There's Takagi still in motion backwards.
Yeah, this is a tough call for race control.
Little under 2 minutes to go in the session.
Yeah, race control, they have to decide. Should we go red? Is that car in our safe position? Obviously not. 2 cars got there just on that lap alone, so they'll probably try to let some guys maybe finish up their laps. But if they go red, it's good. And Carpentier goes to P1.
67.040 seconds. And the red is out. Red flag with about 90 seconds to go in the session, much like the situation 2 weeks ago in Vancouver, where the red flag came out late and cost a number of drivers their best laps. There is Patrick Carpentier, who has locked up the provisional pole, the bonus championship point, and the guaranteed front row spot on Sunday. And he is one happy Canadian.
Got to figure he stole that one. It's hard to say where he would have ended up. It's a good lap regardless, but the right guy turned the right lap at the right time.
You see the crew giving him the props. We'll talk with him in just a moment. Stand by. Lots more to come for the first round of qualifying for the Champ Cars at Mid-Ohio.
When you have money
Welcome back to a beautiful day in Central Ohio. Here's a look at the first day of qualifying. Patrick Carpentier at 67.040 seconds takes provisional pole and a bonus championship point. Cristiano da Matta second quick, Christian Fittipaldi third. They were the top 2 cars in this morning's practice. Alex Tagliani, Carpentier's teammate, is fourth, so the Newman Haas and Players Foresight teams appear to have things pretty well dialed in.
Well, and I said that he might have stolen that one, but that number of 7.0 is 3/10 quicker than anybody ran this morning. So that's I think even if everybody had put their laps in, he's still going to be right up towards the front. And we see Bruno is not happy. That's Bruno's sister. The Brazilians have their sisters looking out for him.
Well, I'm not sure. He got as far as the Visteon Patrick Racing team. He and Townsend Bell, who drove that car, had their problems in the past. Oriol Servia is in it again this weekend. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Well, Patrick is talking to his team. Congratulations. Sensational lap there. Pull one out of the bag.
Yeah, I'm really happy. That worked out really well. My team said, come on, put one together, and we did. I'm really happy. That was a perfect lap, so it's good. We stay on the front row tomorrow. That's all I want, and it's good for me right now. So
it's Friday and Saturday, a totally different strategy with the track typically improving overnight. Is it pole or bust? You really go for it here and gamble?
Yeah, you really go for it. We tried to go a little bit later because traffic usually is not much of a thing. So we tried to go a bit later, and hey, coincidence made it happen, and Ford did a good job, and the TC worked well, and the car was good. So my engineer's been doing a fantastic job lately, and it's good.
You tested here back in May. Patrick ran 5s very comfortably, and suddenly we see you boys struggling in the 7s. So this racetrack is something you have to get a handle on in terms of the grip level. How much different, when you come away from a test with a good setup, how hard is it to go really backward steps in terms of making the car quick again?
It's very hard because, we came in with the exact same setup, and I told them, guys, let's put exactly the same setup as we did when we tested. And it was not very fast, so we kind of had to go the opposite way, and for some reason today, that's what it seems to be working. So if we go in the 5s tomorrow, then we'll change it again.
Great job, Patrick. Patrick, congratulating his 100th start here at Mid-Ohio, provisionally on the pole. Let's go down to Derek Daly.
Thank you, Calvin. Cristiano, can I grab him? Cristiano, sorry, I know you're in the debrief. That was his engineer, Rocky Rokelin here. Cristiano, just for a quick second, you might have got it stolen away from you with bad timing.
Yeah, we left it to the very end as everybody else. Couldn't get a lap. It's always every time you try to play this game of getting the perfect track, you expose yourself to this kind of situation. So a little frustrated, but know that we have the car and everything to try to fight for it tomorrow.
Cristiano, when you did that first run, you only did 3 or 4 laps and immediately went 7 or 8 tenths quicker than the whole field, almost with ease. Then you made some changes, but the ease with which you got that speed gives you the type of feel that you really have the contender for the pole tomorrow?
I'm sure, like it was only my second lap, I was able to do a 7:09, and I'm sure there was more in the car. It's just a pity that we weren't able to get it. Cost us a point.
Thanks, Cristiano. Go back to Rocky. Thank you, Rocky. Sorry. We hate to butt in when they're actually beginning the debrief, but of course, there's nothing like being right in the middle of the live action. And Cristiano, most of the drivers, I think, fully understand that we want to be in there with them. But, you know, still, again, it's sometimes difficult to just drag them away from the engineer when they're about to do their debrief. Bob?
Thanks, Derek. I imagine we can sum up that conversation. Rocky said, how's the car? Matta said, it's great. P2. There is Patrick Carpentier. Moments ago, this was Bruno Junqueira stomping off down the pit lane. We now understand he's been called to speak with the stewards about his speed under that red flag.
Muscle.
Back to Mid-Ohio, there's Patrick Carpentier, whose best start this season, a second. That's the worst he can do after topping provisional qualifying. This was moments ago. Junqueira, evidently an upset man. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Calvin Fish?
Well, Bruno is very frustrated, and I think that's an indication that Bill Papis there, the engineer, walks through. Bruno, you're very upset. I know you had a quick word with Patrick, and I think it was Jimmy you may have walked down to.
I didn't talk with them, but I know that there was a player that I think was Carpentier and Jimmy behind the players, and every single lap on the second set of tires, they would slow down on the last turn. It's unbelievable. I did 7 laps without get a clear lap, you know, and that's not right. I think they have to penalize him. On the first set, I was in second, but because of the red flag, they took out my best lap. Then I did the whole qualify with 1 lap with cold tires. You know?
This has been discussed. I remember sitting in the drivers' meeting at Toronto after qualifying there, and this subject was brought up about slowing down to create the gap so you can then go quickly, but it screws all the guys on their fast one.
Yes, but sometimes I admit but he did like 4 or 5 times. If you get my lap times on second set, you're gonna see that I didn't get one flying lap, and that's not right. You know, when you slow down or make a mistake or something, let someone pass you and get a clear lap. You cannot hold someone every time.
Hopefully Bruno can get a better run tomorrow. Everyone believes that the track will be quicker tomorrow, so hopefully it won't affect his qualifying position too much for the race on Sunday.
Well, no question, he is a hot young driver. Now here's another look at the red flag coming out, and Junqueira not slowing down, wanting to complete that hot lap, perhaps a little frustrated at that point by what he described as blocking by the Forsyth teammates. He'll have to answer for that, not slowing down under the red flag.
Oh, I can empathize with Bruno, and there was actually a rule put in the rule book when they brought these new qualifying rules in that they said they would penalize people who did not yield to people on fast laps, and they were envisioning people, you know, maybe not paying attention, not this situation, but if you can solve this, you drop the hammer on a few guys, and there's always extenuating circumstances, but if you want guys to get out of each other's way, you need to let them know who's boss, and I think Bruno has a legit beef.
And now we know who Bruno Junqueira was yelling at and why Patrick Carpentier wanted to get his attention. There's Paul Tracy, and Derek is there.
And Bob, I'm not sure everybody would agree or feel sorry for any driver who gets caught in traffic and complains about it, because they sit here for most of the time. Paul, do you have an opinion on drivers complaining about getting blocked in the last 10 minutes?
I mean, the track's empty for 45 minutes, so you should go when the track is empty if you're going to complain. But, you know, we had a pretty poor session today. We caused a red when I spun and lost what would have been our quick time. So, you know, it just didn't really go according to plan for us today, but luckily it's today and not tomorrow.
Paul, very little running was done this morning also when you had good time to test and change and tune the chassis. Is the tires really becoming an issue, Paul, where you just cannot run enough practice even prior to a qualifying session even starting?
Well, I think the tires are so critical now. I mean, Bridgestone makes a great tire, but when you have to go at full rich as hard as you can go for a stint, you got to have tires to do it. And if you have used tires, you're not going to be as quick as you are when you have new tires. So everybody's trying to save the tires, and they're doing as little amount of running as they can so they have tires for the race, because now the pace is so much faster than it was before that you need to have the tires to do it.
Good point. Good luck tomorrow, Paul. Thank you. Booth?
All right, thanks very much, Derek. Right now, a Ford-powered car sits on pole. If he hangs on, Patrick Carpentier can give Ford its first pole since Jimmy Vasser did it at Long Beach. We'll be back in a moment to Mid-Ohio. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. The first of 2 rounds of qualifying for the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio now in the books. Here's a program note. Speed Channel is your home for the World Rally Championship. Tonight through Monday night, that's nightly updates. On the current round of the World Championship, the finish rally, only on Speed Channel.
Thanks, Adam.
Late in the session here at Mid-Ohio, Tony Kanaan did a little rally driving of his own down in the keyhole.
Got in too hot there, and that's right where the road starts to fall away. So if you get in too hot, you're going off.
Kept the fire, got back on track, and Kanaan was 5th in today's provisional round of qualifying. Calvin Fish is with him.
The man Cristiano calls Shorty, Tony Kanaan. Qualified 5th. Tell us what happened up in the keyhole.
A little moment, trying too hard, trying to go for the pole. I think somebody just smoked a tire in front of me, and you know, Calvin, when you're in the reference, you just got a little bit, you know, you're really braking in the limit. So I hit the brakes a little harder and locked the rear wheels to spun, and obviously I managed to keep going, and poor Takagi didn't. So you know, he lost his position.
Tough to find a clear lap, though. Typically, we're going to see frustration. Bruno's very frustrated once again. The traffic situation, people trying to find a clear lap with about 5-7 minutes to go.
Oh, come on, we have an hour. We all decide to go 90 minutes to go to put 2 sets of tires on. You can't complain. I mean, if you want to go, you go tomorrow afternoon, just go an hour before. No, as soon as they go green, you go out. I think, you know, I got caught in traffic, so everybody did. So that's up to us to try to find a gap. It's been crazy, this qualifying. It's exciting, but it's tough.
Okay, Tony coming off a podium finish in Vancouver. Let's get down to someone else who had a bit better result down there with Derek Daly.
Actually, there's a complete team debrief going on here with Paul Tracy, Dario Franchitti, and Michael Andretti. Michael, with about 2 minutes to go, I look up and you're P1. I look back and you're 7th. I mean, things changed rapidly out there.
Yeah, they do. And, you know, we all wait till the end, and you're going to maybe get lucky and get a clean lap or not. And I didn't get a clean lap on my second set of tires. So we went from wherever you said to 7th. So this is the way it goes.
Michael, in a session like that, the car is obviously good. Do you tune it very much? Do you bother trying to tune it, or do you just try and get that magic lap and time it properly?
Really, at that point, you put the tires on and go. You really don't have time much to make much change, so you just go for it.
If I can just edge in here to Dario, off the road just a little bit, I mean, an indication of just how hard you try. Is this technically a very difficult track, Dario?
Absolutely. This is one of those tracks that has every different type of corner, a couple of different surface changes. You got to get it right. And the first run in qualifying, the car wasn't very good at all. Made some changes. The car was very good, I felt. Unfortunately, we came across in the...
liar out of me, makes changes.
Yeah, well, we were struggling though, you know, and we made some changes. It really improved the car. Came across Nakano, and he was just going a lot slower than we were, and that was it. Out came the Reds after that. So I think we're in a lot better condition than we were at the start of the session, but we're definitely paying the price for not running this morning.
Okay, so you don't run this morning. Mid-Ohio, in fact, tracks in general historically get faster. Does everybody have the opinion that there will be at least another second lap to come tomorrow from everybody?
Well, Michael's is nodding his head here. So yeah, I mean, I think it's this place when the rubber goes down, we'll get quicker. I'm hoping so, because I'm going to try and get on the front row tomorrow.
Well, yeah, he's going to have to beat Michael Andretti, because every time Michael ran, you can see him go right to the top. But it's such a timing issue with these qualifying sessions, as you saw with Patrick Carpentier, who timed it to perfection and got that championship point as a bonus.
No question. It helps to be lucky as well as good. We'll take another break. We've still got more to come. Stand by for more before we call it a day here at Mid-Ohio. We'll be right back. This Speed Channel presentation has been brought to you by Circuit City. We know the excitement you feel about the latest digital toys. That's why we're here. Circuit City, we're with you. And by Toyota, get the feeling. And by FedEx, proud sponsor of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. We're about to wrap things up here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. First round qualifying is now complete. Let's get to Calvin Fish.
We're going to attempt to break in here. Max Papis qualified 16th today in the Tecate Lola, and talking to his own team, hopefully we can just break in here. Max, I know it's tough coming in like you did with no testing and been out of a car for a little while. Even this morning, I know you're talking to the mechanics about the steering wheel, the signals and alarms, whole new environment, even though you've been in the series this year.
I tell you, it's a completely different situation, being in a new car, new team, but I'm proud of what I'm doing, I think we are making good progress, and I think coming Sunday we should be competitive because Don and the crew, they know what they're doing, and just a little bit more of, being methodical, is going to pay off.
You mentioned Don's name, Don Halliday, the engineer on the car. You actually worked together, although not directly, with Team Rahal last year. He was the engineer on Kenny's car. So you were used to being in debrief sessions with Don, I assume.
Yeah, last year, Don and Kenny, they drove me nuts, with their setups. They were very quick. And, me and John Dick, we tried to battle that, very good chemistry they got. And now, I got Don, and I'm getting the best use of him. And, I think 3 days is not a lot of time, but I'm persistent.
All right, as always, big smile on Max's face. Let's go down to Derek Daly.
Surrounded by a sea of fans here from Columbus, Ohio, and around the surrounding area. Now, Dario said tomorrow he believes they're going to go maybe a second a lap faster. I think that will be the speed on the track. But, one of the real beauties of Mid-Ohio here, all the fans can get within 10 feet of the people working on the cars. Look at these period-style garages, just gorgeous. And all the cars are being worked on here right under the noses of all these fans. I can't think of a better setting for Champ Car racing to show off its street racing or its road racing in particular. And I think everybody agrees, right? That's it.
Okay, thanks, Derek. And we could point out that this track provides perhaps the best working conditions for the crews of anywhere in the Kart FedEx Championship. There's a look at the final standings. Provisional pole to Patrick Carpentier. Tommy Kendall, what do you look forward to tomorrow?
Well, first, comment on those garages. You can actually get closer because there's a second deck. And I know when we raced here in those garages, you forget, but some of the other teams get up there and scout. That is the closest the other teams can get because any other situation, they throw you out from under the awning. But for tomorrow, I think we saw a situation where Carpentier was quick, but had everybody gotten runs on their second set of tires, I think you probably would have seen a different order. So, but he's locked in on the front row, and qualifying is very important here. I don't think anyone's come from further back than 8th in recent history. So very, very big move for Carpentier. He's on the driver market trying to pump up his value, and we'll see if da Matta can answer back or any of the other guys. Tracy certainly needs to get on track if he hopes to threaten for the championship.
I think we could call it kind of a fractured session today with that late red flag, and that sets up what should be a terrific session tomorrow. Don't forget Kart Friday night featuring a taste of kart. Chefs from all of the teams and surrounding restaurants serving up delicacies. Tommy Kendall will be tasting them all, trust me. We'll also have more on the injuries to Adrian Fernandez in the big accident 2 weeks ago in Vancouver. That's all coming your way. Derek Daly hosting at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Of course, tomorrow, live second round qualifying, and then the race on Sunday on CBS Live beginning at 12:30. I'm Bob Barsha for Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish, thinking of our colleague Scott Pruitt racing a cup car at Watkins Glen. Thanks for joining us today from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We'll see you on Saturday for live second round qualifying and more on the stories developed today at Mid-Ohio. Until then, so long, everyone.